Hi, my name is Carl Arnold. I'm an attorney and mediator in Northfield, Minnesota, and I'm here with Dr. Sue Johnson, the author of the book Hold Me Tight. She's a professor of clinical psychology at the University of Ottawa and also at Alliant University in San Diego. She's the director for the International Center for Excellence in Emotionally Focused Therapy. Hi, Dr. Johnson.
Hi, nice to be here.
Thank you so much for talking with me. I learned about Hold Me Tight from a colleague. She's a clinical therapist, and I asked her what books are good for people in relationship conflict, and she said, "Hold Me Tight. You've got to read it," and it's what I use with clients. Actually, she uses it in her practice. So, tell me a little bit about the background of Hold Me Tight.
Well, Hold Me Tight. On one hand, it took me 9 months to write, but on another hand, it's really took me 25 years to write, because for the last 25 years, my team has been researching how to help distressed couples, and we have a model called emotionally focused therapy, which gets the best outcome results in the field of couple therapy, and it's really all that research is. Everything we've learned from the thousands of couples we've seen over the last 25 years is in that book. But also, our approach is the only approach that is based on what we call the new science of love, which is that there's a huge amount of research that's come out in the last 10, 15 years about adult bonding and adult romantic love. And really, it's not getting out to the public at all. I don't really understand why, to tell you the truth. But I just would go to my local bookstore and I would look at the shelves and I would think, gee, somebody has got to write. Somebody's got to write about all this new science, and then it sort of occurred to me that nobody was going to do that except me. So usually I write books for academics and therapists, and so I just decided, okay, Sue, you have to do something different here and, write for people who are walking into bookstores who want to help them make their marriage better or change their marriage. But there's an enormous amount of incredible research that is in Hold Me Tight. And I think that's why it strikes you as perhaps being different from lots of books just give a few tips, a little bit of advice, a few cliches, which, by the way, are often wrong. When you have the science, you have a perspective on some of the sort of things that we really are big mistakes about love, right, that we've made in the past. So yes, there's a lot of stuff in Hold Me Tight, and there's also exercises.
One of the things that struck me is in my practice, I focus on family law and mediation, and so I'm dealing with couples, especially in mediation, where I'm acting as a neutral, and I don't have any training outside of law and mediation, but even a lay person can kind of see there's a pattern going on here. Yes. What they're talking about, this argument is not about the broken down car. It's about something else. Could you talk to that concept?
Yes, absolutely. I mean, some people say, well, you can't possibly have a science of love, right? And I say, of course you can. What you do is you get people who obviously care about each other, and you watch how they connect and feel good and loving, and then how they disconnect and get angry with each other or turn away from each other. And there are absolutely patterns in that. And what we know from all the research over the last 15 years is that in Western societies, most people do a dance called one person looks at the relationship, tunes into it and says, oh my goodness, I don't know where this other person is. I don't feel connected. I don't feel safe. I don't feel close. And they start to try and do something about that by turning and, sort of protest. What I see is protest. They're really protesting. They're saying, where are you? Where are you? But often it sounds like very critical remarks. So one person will start demanding, can't we talk more? Why don't you ever make love to me? Do you think we're happy? Unfortunately, the other person hears it as criticism, and they either defend themselves or they withdraw. So you get a pattern called demand, withdraw, and the tricky part is it sort of takes over relationships. The more I demand, if you hear it as criticism, if you don't feel particularly safe with me, level of trust isn't very high in our relationship, the more I demand, the more you shut down and move away. The more you shut down and move away, the lonelier I feel, the more upset I am, the more unsure I am of the bond between us, the more I up the ante and demand. And the tricky thing is that people haven't understood the dance. They haven't understood what's going on. So they really do believe that it's an argument about the kids or money or who does the washing up. But if you listen to these arguments, they always fight in the same way. And it's really an argument about the bond between them. It's an argument about what we call attachment. It's, if you really listen, the music is, am I important to you? Do you value me? Are you there for me? Can I count on you? If I reach for you, will you respond? And if the answer to that is no or maybe, people lose their emotional balance in a millisecond. And that doesn't say anything bad about us as people. That's the way our brain is wired. We are wired to go into a sort of meltdown, if you like, when we suddenly realize that the person we count on isn't really there for us. So that's what's going on. But I've just told you not just the pattern, I've also told you how to make sense of the pattern, which is based on thousands of studies into adult bonding, which the general public, which nobody's talking about to the general public. I mean, for me, this is like saying, you know, where's the Holy Grail? Well, here it is. It's over there on the mantelpiece and nobody's looking.
That's a good way to put it. It's sort of right, it's sort of in an obvious place. It's right in front of us, but we just haven't realized it yet, maybe.
Yeah, and the scientists who are really talking about what romantic love is all about, somehow they're not getting into Time and Newsweek. What gets into Time and Newsweek is the latest politician having an affair with his secretary, and then everyone jumps on the bandwagon and says, oh, well, you know, we're not really monogamous animals anyway. We are, by the way. We're not really monogamous, and anyway, we can't do marriage, and anyway, love doesn't mean anything. And there's this enormous treasury of information and help and understanding sitting right in all my colleagues' labs and in our articles, and nobody's paying attention to it. I'll give you an example. A couple of years ago, Time magazine did a whole edition on romantic love. I thought, oh, wonderful. I dashed out. I picked up 3 copies. I brought it home. Not one mention of the things I'm talking about that I've put in Hold Me Tight. Not one whisper. It was all the old cliches, you know, about how men and women are different and how love's tricky anyway, and it really just a friendship, or it's all about lust, and it was all this old stuff that we came up with in the 1930s, you know, and which is mysterious. I don't understand.
Well, one thing I want to kind of narrow in on this topic. I happen to be married, and I think, you know, so we all learn things as we go on in life, and patterns, and how do we communicate better and stuff. And I try to explain this. I gathered from your book that sort of a little bit old school, or prior to this research that you've done and are working on, therapists would focus on communication skills, negotiation skills, sort of this almost like a computer, like you had to program it a certain way or act a certain way, follow these XYZ steps, and yours is more about that attachment and verifying, validating it. And I think for me, one thing it seems similar to, I also have 3 brothers and no sisters. So that makes me sort of delayed in some of my abilities to communicate. And so I've learned some of these things as I've gone on. And one of the things is when and maybe this isn't just gender-based, but I think it gets to the issue of the connection involved in the conversation, and this is an example. If somebody asks you for help or has a concern and you immediately provide an answer, or this is what you should do,
Yeah.
that's what early on I would do. I
Yeah,
would
and that
try to provide my answer or advice or act like a consultant, and that's not what the other person was looking for.
exactly.
They were looking
and that,
for a verification of our connection.
That's right. And
Of,
that's very important because, you know, your response would have probably worked real well with somebody at work, or maybe with a friend, or with somebody playing sports with, okay? Your response would have worked really well. But part of understanding the special relationship that is a bonding love relationship is that that isn't what your partner wants from you. What your partner wants is emotional support. So rather than giving advice, what works best, and there's all kinds of research on this, what works best and helps you the most is for your partner to just basically give you the message, they're with you, they understand your feelings, they care about you, and they believe that you'll do this, and they ask you what you need, and it's about emotional connection. But, you know, this is the core of a love relationship, and we have gone all around the outside with teaching people negotiation skills and using iMessages, and really what our work is about is taking a step back and saying, no, you can't just program people to use a certain dialogue, because especially when you're really upset, your brain just doesn't go there, okay? It just doesn't work, right? What you have to do is help people understand the dance they're caught in. Help them understand where they get stuck and how they feel disconnected and isolated and then get scared, and then help them see how to turn and reach for each other, because all people in relationships fight. Everyone fights. The issue is that in good relationships that work, people can turn back towards each other, reach for each other, and repair the emotional part of the bond. That's what they can, you know, lots of people know how to step back and sort of stop rocking the boat, right, and just sort of pretend everything's fine for a while. But that's not what we're talking about here. We're talking about being able to go to that emotional level, understand what your needs are and what your emotions are, tune into your partner, and make this incredible bond. When you do that, both of you are stronger. This is one of the terrible messages that our culture puts out, is that there's something wrong with depending on someone else if you're an adult. There's something wrong about needing someone else. And this is and my profession has done this. You know, it's sort of like if you don't see the whole elephant, you just see part of the elephant. You make terrible mistakes about what the creature is, you know, and you tell people to do silly things. So really, when you understand that it's all about the attachment bond and creating this safe attachment bond, and how starved, literally emotionally starved people get when they feel isolated, you can help them know how to reach for their partner and create this connection again. That is what really makes a difference, not just being able to stop the fight about who's going to do the chores. You know, it's...
One of the things that struck me as really helpful in the exercise, and let me explain, is sort of stepping back and the couple jointly sort of replays a little bit, or identifies what are the steps to this dance, or what are the, when you say this, what do I typically say, sort of thing. How does this go? What's the pattern here? And identifying those things in general, or that, you know, maybe not nitpicking about, well, you always say this, but just generally acknowledging your own part and saying, well, then typically I feel this way, and we end up going this route. And I like the idea of kind of naming it. In your book, you kind of say, well, it can be helpful just to, you're jointly really coming up with a name for it, and that could be helpful in itself.
And it's beautiful that, because we have a Hold Me Tight educational program based on the book now, and all over the world there's people running Hold Me Tight groups, and people are emailing me all the time saying how much they've got out of that, right? But that's one of the things that people do in Hold Me Tight groups, and one of the people on the video that goes with going to a Hold Me Tight group, there's a Hold Me Tight video, right, is these three couples doing some of the exercises, and one couple were particularly fascinating. I said, well, what do you call the dance that you get caught in? Because we all get caught in stuck places and with our partners where we can't connect. And they say, oh, we call it the nothing. I said, oh, I'm sorry, could you help me? I don't understand. They say, oh, yes, well, what happens is I feel bad. This is the woman speaking. I don't even really know why I feel bad. I don't really understand my own needs. I don't really understand what's going wrong. We've been married forever, but I feel bad, and I don't feel close to him, and I feel upset, but I don't even feel like I should feel upset because I can't explain it. So I seethe. And he comes up from the basement where he's working, and he says, what's wrong?
Mm-hmm.
And I say, nothing. And he says, yes, there is. You are being strange and difficult and weird, just like your mother, right? And I say, no, really, there's nothing. And he throws up his hands and goes back down the basement, and they don't talk for 2 days. Now that, I mean, she basically backs off. He comes and tries to break down the door between them. She gets even more intimidated, backs off more. He gives up and goes away. They end up basically totally isolated from each other. And that isn't just sad and hurtful. We know from all the research it impacts your health. It upsets the way your immune system works. It messes up the health of your heart. It puts up your blood pressure. It messes up your sleep. It makes it much more likely that you'll get clinically depressed. If you are in any traumatic situation, it will reduce your ability to deal with that traumatic situation. On and on and on. We are bonding animals. We are meant to function and adapt with each other. The other close bonds are our ecological niche. This is where we are supposed to thrive. So this disconnection isn't just sort of a unfortunate, or, oh, that's the way marriage is, or, gee, well, everyone gets hurt, right? It's incredibly important in people's lives. It plays an important role. So when that couple can start to say, hey, we're caught in the nothing. The nothing's come and grabbed us, mm-hmm. right? We're caught in the nothing, and change it and reach for each other. They don't just change their relationship and the way they feel about themselves. They make that new dance makes each person stronger. In fact, at the end of the 8 weeks of 8 conversations that lady did, bless her heart, she went out and she was kind of a shy, introverted person. You can guess that by her saying nothing to her partner. But at the end of the 8 weeks, she went out and created her own business, right? Wow. Because she just started to feel like, oh, I know how I feel, and I understand my emotions, and there's nothing wrong with them, and I can ask for support, and I'm feeling valued and special and competent. And she goes out into the world, and that's really what relationships, that's what love is, an ancient survival code. We are supposed to reach for each other and stand together and face stress together and support each other. And when we do that, we grow. So the idea that you're a wimp if you depend on someone is really toxic rubbish, okay? And it's all over our culture. I mean, it's on Oprah, it's in every magazine, it's on Dr. Phil, oh, well, you're too needy. If you weren't so needy, you'd be sexier, or you'd be more macho, or people would love you more. It's all nonsense. The thing is, if you look at really strong, resilient, mentally healthy people, nearly always they can tell you they have one or two people they love, who they can turn to, who they have what we call a safe haven, secure-based relationship with. And what we do in our therapy, and what I've tried to write about in Hold Me Tight, is we help people create that. If you help people create that, really, the small arguments about who's going to mow the lawn, nah, you know. And also differences. People say, oh, well, the problem is that people are different. That's not the problem. I'll give you a good example. In my marriage, I've been married for 22 years to my husband. He's a mountain man. He goes hiking. And I hate hiking, especially uphill. I don't like it. It's silly. Okay, so, and I like to do Argentinian tango. Now, that's pretty different, yeah?
That is different.
Yeah. But the point is, it enriches our relationship. He comes back from the mountains and brings me beautiful rocks and tells me how much he's missed me. I come and talk to him about my tango and how I'm feeling like I'm not making progress, and then I show him one of my moves and he says, oh, that's beautiful, sweetheart. The differences are enriching if you still have this secure bond, if you can still reach for each other and make that connection. Differences are no big deal. They're actually enriching. If they threaten you, if I said to him, oh, I'm not sure you're going to be faithful to me, so I don't want you to go hiking with that group of people up that mountain because you might have an affair on the mountain, then it would all fall apart. If you have this bond, there's nothing wrong with differences. There's no soulmates out there. There's no perfect partner that you're not going to have to struggle with this dance of connection and disconnection with. But, if you know how to do the dance and you really can create a secure bond, a lot of the general difficulties in relationships just sort of fade into the background.
Well, one thing I want to be sure to ask you is, if somebody is listening or viewing, where can they learn more about the book Hold Me Tight?
The best thing to do is to go on Amazon. They've bought an enormous number of them, so they're cheap. I think there's something like $17.
And I know they're less if you have a Kindle.
Yes, well,
electronic.
And I think people are doing that because the book has just been on the Wall Street Journal bestseller list for the last number of months, which is quite strange because it's been out for 2 years now. So,
it's becoming more popular somehow, by referrals, maybe.
It's unheard of that a book would keep going like that. But, that's very rewarding for me, of course. But you can go on Amazon, and you can also look on the website, www.HoldMeTight.com. You can see a few things on there, little interviews with me. Find out about our other more professional site, which will maybe tell you when you can call and find out if there's a Hold Me Tight group in your area. Lots of churches and lots and lots of professionals are starting to put on Hold Me Tight groups. That's basically, it's about 8 or 10 couples, or actually as many as 50 couples sometimes, getting together and doing with a leader, looking at a DVD of couples going through the Hold Me Tight conversations and then trying them out themselves with some help. And people seem to just love them. I've run a few of them, and I must say I was completely blown away by them. The energy in the room, it sort of lifts off like a spaceship. And the way I understand that is not because we're so clever that we made this thing up, but because what we're doing, because we understand the science behind love, is we're tapping into people's deepest emotions, most basic needs, and we're helping them have the conversations that help them create what we all desperately need, which is a loving, safe, secure bond, someone we can turn to who we say, "Are you there for me?" And we hear a resounding yes. You know, that's what we all need. And as a society, we have to make marriages and relationships that look like this. You know, this is the way to a better society, is to create these loving partnerships for people. And we know how to do it. This is the thing that drives me a little squirrely, please forgive me here, but we know how to do it. So you know, so all these cliches on love, you know, my friends don't want to go to lectures with me because I'll suddenly explode, you know, when somebody says something that I think is just sort of puerile about love relationships. Misinformation is toxic, you know.
Right.
It keeps us all stuck and lonely, and people are getting lonelier and lonelier in our society.
Yeah.
There's research on that too.
Well, I want to thank you so much.
Most welcome.
So this has been Dr. Sue Johnson regarding her book, Hold Me Tight. Thanks a lot, Sue.
You're welcome. Nice to talk to you.